Just what you want to hear from the man in charge of keeping you safe down here, isn't it? But then again, before you guys know, I might not even work here. So let's see if I can put on some lights for you. There we go.
It looks like water.
So folks, let me just tell you, starting off, that on this tour I'm going to be telling you all about the geology of the area, so the different rocks and minerals that you find down here, and also a bit of mining history as well, because these used to be mines back in the day. So if you're interested, this is limestone, and this limestone is about 350 million years old.
Wow.
Believe it or not, there was a time when the land that we're standing on right now, it would have been at the bottom of a shallow tropical sea. Now just imagine that when all the sea creatures died, their bodies drifted down to the bottom, where they got crushed down by the weight of all the water, until eventually they turned into limestone. So this stuff around us is made out of bits of bone and shell and coral and sea lily. Dead plant and animal matter, basically. And if you've got a shellfish allergy, it's really not a good idea to lick the rock down here, for obvious reasons, since it is made out of shellfish, among other things. I will actually be able to show you some fossils later on in the tour, just to prove that I'm not telling you complete lies down here. Have eaten calcite if you've ever taken paracetamol. They put it in those tablets as a bulking agent. So if my constant droning on gives any of you a migraine, just take a great big bite anywhere into the rock down here. And you certainly won't have a headache anymore, will you? Because you'll have too much of a toothache to keep you distracted. And the name Galena means the bright one or the shining one. That's where we get the names Helen and Helena from today. So if you do know a Helen or a Helena, you can charm her with that fact that she's the bright and shining one. Or you could tell her that she's a great toxic lump and see how she reacts to that revelation. Yeah, I once wound up with 3 Helens on a single tour. You can imagine what a hostile atmosphere that created down here. The thing that you need to take away from the tour about Galena is that it's mostly made out of lead, and that's why people used to mine it down here. Some of you probably know this already, but we used to have lots and lots of different uses for lead. I warn you that right here where that sign is, we have to call it the point of no return. If you carry on beyond that point, you won't be able to turn it. So if anybody here is very photosensitive.
Watch your head.
It does actually look like corn. Like this is what it would look like. But the floor is down and it's like slab.
ਇਹ ਸਰੋਂਗ ਹੈ ਜਨਾਬ ਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਠੰਡ ਜੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਲਈ ਜੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਠੰਡ ਹੈਗੀ ਤੇ ਪਹਾੜ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੇ ਜਨਾਬ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੈ ਪਾਣੀ ਵੀ ਵੇਖੋ ਨਾ ਉੱਤੇ ਵਗਦਾ ਪਿਆ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਪੁਰਾਣਾ ਸਰੋਂਗ ਜਨਾਬ ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਨੀਵੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਸਿਰ ਨੂੰ ਨੀਵੇਂ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੇ ਲੰਘਣਾ ਜੇ ਐ ਵੇਖੋ ਨਾ ਬੰਦੇ ਲੰਘਦੇ ਪਏ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਸਰੋਂਗ ਬਾਹ ਜੀ ਵਾਹ ਕੀ ਬਾਤ ਹੈ ਕੁਦਰਤ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਾਨ ਹੈ ਜਨਾਬ ਵੇਖੋ ਨਾ ਕਿੱਡੀ ਪੁਰਾਣੀ ਸੁਰੰਗ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਉਚਾਈ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੇ ਬਾ ਠੰਡ ਹੋਈ ਪਈ ਤੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਬਾਗੀ ਆ ਮਗਰ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਪਏ ਬਹੁਤ
That's the cow side.
पत्थर ਵੇਖੋ ਬਾਗੀ ਕਿਆ ਚਮਕਦਾ ਪਿਆ ਪੱਥਰ बहुत फर्स्ट क्लास सुरंग बारी क्या बात है एक ग्रुप ਜਨਾਬ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਬਾਹਰ ਉਹਦਾ ਮੁਕੰਮਲ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਇਹ ਵੇਖੋ ਪਹਾੜੀ ਸੁਰੰਗ ਕੀ ਬਾਤ ਹੈ ਮਾਸ਼ਾਅੱਲਾ ਕੁਦਰਤ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਾਨ ਹੈ ਜੀ ਮਾਸ਼ਾਅੱਲਾ ਉਹ ਥੱਲੇ ਹੋਰ ਅੱਗੇ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਸੁਰੰਗ ਬੰਦ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਉੱਪਰ ਬੰਦੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਜਨਾਬ ਸਾਡੀ ਪਾਰਟੀਆਂ ਆ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਜਨਾਬ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਗਏ ਤੇ ਮਾਸ਼ਾਅੱਲਾ ਜੀ ਕੁਦਰਤ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਾਨ ਹੈ ਪਹਾੜ ਵੇਖੋ ਆ ਸਟੋਨ ਵੇਖੋ ਭਾਈ ਕੀ ਬਾਤ ਹੈ ਚਮਕਦਾ ਪਿਆ ਕੀ ਬਾਤ ਹੈ ਮਾਸ਼ਾਅੱਲਾ ਜੀ ਮਾਸ਼ਾਅੱਲਾ 3,50,000 ਸਾਲ ਪੁਰਾਣੀ ਜੇ ਭਾਜੀ
This is where we are going to be at our lowest points, but switch any phone lights or torches off before you
Millions of years have passed, but our story has much more to tell. We are now in the late Carboniferous period. 300 million years ago, a limestone has already been formed, warm seas have retreated. River deltas with tropical swamps are filled with forests of gigantic horsetails and tree ferns. In the air, enormous insects fly around. Over time, the forests die, and the rotting vegetation compresses and solidifies to eventually become coal. But we must move on. It is now 200 million years ago, and the land that will become Britain has drifted nearer to the equator, part of an ancient supercontinent called Pangaea. Catastrophic eruptions shake and distort the rock, and deadly fumes fill the air. Global temperatures rise, and the oceans acidify. Planet Earth becomes a very inhospitable place, and primitive life in a mass extinction called the Great Dying. Acid rain ground, dissolving the limestone, forming huge caves and passages. Deep underground, mineral-rich fluids crystallize in joints and cracks. Some will become valuable lead ore. But the caverns remain undiscovered. Their secret is hidden. Time passes and slowly alter the Earth's surface, forming new continents. Fish, dinosaurs, and numerous plant species start to inhabit these lands. And life slowly evolves over the next 180 million years. Then, one devastating day, a massive asteroid impacts planet Earth and triggers violent volcanic eruptions. Ash and dust block out the sun, causing the ecosystem to collapse. And the dinosaurs, along with some animals and plants, die out. As the land we call Britain drifts northwards, the climate gradually cools and glaciers form, hundreds of meters thick in places. Storms, snow and ice repeatedly come and go. It will be thousands of years before the temperatures begin to rise, and icy meltwaters scour the rocks, filling the caverns with sand and silt. As the glaciers melt, the landscape and coastline of Britain slowly emerges, and early humans arrive. But the hidden caverns still keep their secret. Hundreds of years go by, and people discover how to use metal. Lead becomes a valuable resource, and during the Roman conquest, is mined extensively in Derbyshire. Our story is nearly over. Lead mining is established as an industry. Local miners dig deeper and deeper, removing all the glacial sand and silt to reveal more of the valuable ore and minerals. It is their hard labor that opens up the cavern that you see today.
You are going to be tested on all that at the end of the tour, so I'm just going to pay very close attention indeed. But there are a couple of highlights that you can take away from that mine of information, every terrible pun intended there. So we believe that about 200 million years ago, give or take, there were volcanoes around here. And when a volcano erupts, you don't just get the land being blasted apart, you also end up with toxic fumes being spewed up into the air. That will poison the atmosphere, and something that you get from that is acid rain. We believe that this chamber was formed by acid rain eroding the limestone over time. And about 15,000 years ago, which would have been when the Ice Age was coming to an end, a lot of meltwater then began coming down here from the melting ice glaciers at the top. The water came down through that big hole in the ceiling. It washed a lot of sand and soil down here, and that sand had lots of little bits of lead mixed in with it. The chamber was discovered in 1699 by a man called John Tinker. He'd been digging down from the top of the hill in search of lead. And that point right there, that's where he breached into the chamber. I don't know why it is that some people always start giggling whenever I say this, but that is the base of John Tinker's great big shaft that you're observing right there. And he will descend down that enormous shaft of his with a bucket and spade, shovel the sand, take it to the top, and just sift through it to find the little bits of galena. It only took him 6 years to empty this enormous chamber all by himself. That's how easy it was. A few other things for you to see as well. What you've got here is a massive geode. Remember the calcite, that translucent mineral I showed you in the first chamber? That's all calcite crystals right there. And another one up there shaped just like Mick Jagger's lips. So what you can do now, guys, I'll just let you wander around for a minute or two. Feel free to take lots of photographs. And if you've got any questions for me, I'll gladly make them some answers.